We welcome on our first guest, though, right now. Blake Lawrence from opendorse joins us. Blake, first of all, it's been really a crazy time the last few weeks. You know, we get the announcement that the partnership with the University of Nebraska and opendorse for these student athletes, and then obviously the coronavirus has kind of taken control of our lives, but we're really happy to be able to get you on the horn tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my goal is to give you and the listeners 15 minutes coronavirus-free programming, and that is what they've earned. So we'll just talk all about the good things, positive things going on, and thanks for having me on. I'm excited about this Ready Now program and dive into the details. Any which way you want to go, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and jump into it, Blake. The Ready. When was this first an idea that you thought this could actually manifest into something that that something could take over a team or athletic department or whatever could latch onto this big idea and it could be hugely beneficial?
Well, I would say that in the short term, we've been working on this specific program since October. As soon as Mark Emmert made the announcement that the NCAA had a stance on name, image, and likeness rights and the policy changes that are going into effect in 2021. And we started to put together the pieces of the Ready program. But as it pertains to the different elements of the program, Audie Kanalik, my business partner, teammate at Nebraska, we've been working towards this moment nearly since my last day playing football at Nebraska a decade ago. And that's working in the professional sports ranks with opendorse's partnerships with the NFLPA and NHL and PGA Tour and IndyCar and LPGA and MLBPA, just these large organizations in sports, understanding at the next level, what do the best pro athletes on the planet, what do they do to maximize the value of their name, image, and likeness rights? And how are they using tools at their disposal to grow that NIL value and ultimately monetize it? So when the rules started changing last summer, being announced in California with the state legislation, we just started to say, hey, everything that we've learned in the last decade of helping pro athletes, what if we could take all of those resources and put them into a program to help student athletes, right? To help student athletes just like us when Audie and I were at Nebraska, running around campus and understand what this new future looks like. And that's what the Ready Now program is. It's a combination of all that we've learned and excited for the decade ahead, being able to use what we learned the last decade to help student athletes cross country.
Looking at this program and all the work that you've done at the professional level, is it just a straight transfer? Does everything kind of go on a straight line as far as what you've learned about the followings that professional athletes have on social media and that sort of thing, basically just coming straight down to college athletics, or are there some unique points about involving college athletes in something like this that doesn't come into play when you're talking about pro athletes?
Well, the collegiate sports model is unique all in itself, right? And so no matter what changes come to the NCAA policies on name, image, and likeness, we know one thing, that the NCAA wants the model to be unique to collegiate sports, and that's something to protect the integrity of the game from a recruiting inducement side, from protecting student athletes from bad actors or booster involvement. All of those things are things to consider when you're talking about the external factors that are going to impact the differences between pro athletes making money through name, image, and likeness and college athletes. But there's also a common thread, I guess, that is going to make it similar in some aspects, and that's that name, image, and likeness rights are a commodity in a sense, in the way that sponsors and businesses and those that are putting pro athletes in video games, or making jerseys or bobbleheads or trading cards with athletes on them, or securing athletes for physical promotions or digital promotions, and all of those things tied to name, image, and likeness rights. And those brands, they spend money because of certain factors. They're looking for an individual that influences consumers so they can help grow their business. So by aligning with an athlete, you're able to grow your business outcomes. No matter if it's a pro athlete, a college athlete, a high school kid, or or anybody, off the street at the retirement center. If you're going to align your brand with a person, they have to produce value. And so for us, there are similar traits of helping a college athlete, helping a Nebraska student athlete prepare for and look and have all the traits that they need so that when a brand like EA Sports or Pepsi comes calling, that there's no difference between the factors that they're considering between a college athlete being the face of their program or a pro athlete. And that's the type of setup that this Ready program is built to do, is make it so that student athletes look just like pro athletes when it comes to name, image, and likeness rights, so they get a fair shake. Now, there's obviously different scales of influence, but ultimately want them to look and feel the same so they have a fair opportunity in the marketplace.
Blake Lawrence from opendorse and former Husker, our guest here on Sports Nightly. I'm Ben McLaughlin, joined by Nate Rohr. Blake, to me, when talking with Bill Moose about this on Monday and having interacted with so many Husker players over the years, it's pretty clear that not every athlete is on the same page in terms of how to take advantage of that, interest in doing that. But now that everyone's given that platform to kind of get everybody who is not brain wired in that way to want to think about that when they could still be, beneficial, and there still could be a lot of positives from them. They could still be a very popular player. Their brain just doesn't want to go in that direction. How important is the education part to help those players that maybe aren't as concerned with it, to get them up to speed to where they're prepared for it and know that it's there if they need it?
Yeah, I would say that there are going to be different levels of interest in student athletes wanting to maximize the value of their name, image, and likeness rights. Just like if you say, hey, there's going to be a volunteer opportunity in the community this weekend, and not every student athlete on campus is going to flood to the local hospital, but those that are interested in building up their community outreach skills or their speaking skills, they're going to invest in those types of initiatives more often than others. That's similar to name, image, and likeness rights. So not every student athlete is going to have the same interest level. But I would say this is again, similar to when student athletes pick a major, right? Some of them are going to go for sociology, psychology, some will do business or architecture. This is something that can run across the gamut of those, but athletes have interests, and those that want to dive deep are going to get the most out of the Ready program, the Ready Now program at Nebraska. But every student athlete on campus is going to have access to this, and that's what makes it unique. There's Nebraska, in my experience as a student athlete, Nebraska truly invests in every student athlete on campus. Keith Zimmer, head of life skills, or Dennis LeBlanc, head of academics. They've been there for 30-plus years. They didn't care if you're the starting linebacker or the walk-on student athlete on the swim team. You're going to get the time and attention that you need to maximize your experience in Nebraska. I think that's unique in Nebraska. I really don't think that same approach qualifies. It exists everywhere across the country. So this program is built to mimic that commitment to helping every student athlete on campus have an opportunity and a fair shake at preparing for the future.
Looking at this program, and I'm glad you mentioned some of the other programs on campus, because at first blush, it would seem, all right, this will benefit the football program because those guys already have a high level of visibility in social media, and even some men's basketball players, some volleyball players. How does this program benefit the next tier of student athletes, whether it's maybe a good baseball player but not the lead baseball player, or somebody on the volleyball team, or somebody in an Olympic sport? How will this program benefit them?
Well, I would say here, I'll throw it back at you guys. If you had to guess in the last 7 days on social media, which student athlete at Nebraska do you think has benefited the most, has seen their name, image, and likeness rights value increase the most, a student athlete on campus today?
It's a great question.
That's a really good question.
My first thought would be, probably a guy like Adrian Martinez or Cam Taylor-Britt would be the first two that jump into my mind.
Yeah, right. So that's a quick one. Well, I've got a couple things for you to consider. That last week, Noah Vedral played in a Big Ten tournament basketball game, right? It's all that the media want to talk about. Same thing with Brent Banks. Like, those two saw their NIL value exceed that of in just that short amount of time. Now it's going to level out, and others will have some value that they capture throughout the entire year. But right now, the hottest name on campus is Noah Vedral, not Adrian Martinez. Right? And if you want to expand this back to the last month, there's actually another student athlete that has generated more buzz than any student athlete on campus, and simply because of their activity online. And that's Aneska Szabo. How do you say her name? Aneska Szabo? Yeah. So Aneska has generated more interactions online on her social channels than any student athlete on campus at Nebraska, right? And those are the things that are going to help impact her NIL value. And that's the thing, is that if more student athletes can understand that it's not just the superstars on campus, it's those that understand what NIL is and are investing in building their value. Another student athlete would be on the wrestling team, Alex Thompson. You know, that's somebody that has generated a lot of buzz and conversation just over the last 7 days, and he's doing it right. So again, I've got names for days and go through a list and show you examples of this. But who you think is going to dominate the name, image, and likeness rights conversations at Nebraska may not be who you think. Who actually is going to dominate those conversations, because the data is going to show that Alex Thompson and Aneska Szabo, like, they have as much opportunity as Adrian Martinez, and that's the benefit of today's NIL rights environment in sports, is that when you tie it to social, digital, NIL rights becomes an even playing field, and every student athlete on campus has the right and fair shake at capitalizing.
Point well taken. I think that's part of the reason why we want you on tonight, is to explain how it can benefit all student athletes. Blake, before we let you go, I'm kind of just interested to hear from you just personally about how this has all come together. I mean, at a place where you played at Nebraska, a place where you built your business in Nebraska, to have Nebraska be the pioneers of this behind a brainchild that you adopted. Does it feel surreal at all to kind of have Nebraska again be the pioneer of something that everyone in the country is going to follow this mold at some point, but to be the first one? What's the feeling now that this is kind of the situation that you're in?
I'm thankful. I would say that it is a little surreal in terms of being a former Nebraska student athlete and being able to bring a solution to current student athletes and student athletes for years to come means a heck of a lot. But I would say that it's really coming full circle for Audie and I. My first visit to Nebraska, I realized it was different. My older brother played quarterback at Kansas. I was recruited heavily to schools across the country, especially Kansas, but nothing compared to the first time I walked into Memorial Stadium. And my career was cut short. I played 3 years in Nebraska, and the fan base has never left. The support has always been there. And my first job, the first company Audie and I started, exists because somebody sent me a direct message on Twitter asking if I could help them with their social media channels, right? I was a co-host of Big Red Wrap-Up for 8 years because Kevin Kugler sent me a direct message on Twitter, right? I know firsthand how important it is to set yourself up for life by investing in the resources that the university provides, right? And I just wish that every student athlete on campus uses today's tools, because a decade later, it's even easier and more accessible to help student athletes maximize the value of their experience in Nebraska. So in some ways, I just hope to recreate the experience that Audie and I have had. And that's the experience that if you invest in Nebraska, Nebraska will invest in you and support you for the rest of your life. That's a story that every student athlete on campus can have, will have, and this Ready Now program is really a culmination of our experiences at Nebraska as student athletes and our experience in the professional world. And all those opportunities come back to the support that the fan base has had for us, and we have to see that continue through the program.
All right, Blake, before we cut you loose, what's next? What's the next step in this thing? Obviously, the big announcement was probably the kickoff for at least in terms of the eyes of the public. What's next now? What's the next step, and what can we look forward to getting this thing in motion?
Yeah, so right now, our team, I started to rattle off some names and some data, but we are running through the assessment phase, which is to understand where a program needs to go, you need to understand where it is. And it's the same thing for a student athlete and name, image, and likeness rights. So we are running a deep assessment of the social and digital presence for every student athlete on campus. And so imagine a lot of data, a lot of numbers being crunched by some proprietary technology we've developed over the last decade, and it kicks out reports. So if you want to know who has an A+ on Instagram or who is failing at Facebook, you can find that right off campus over at opendorse, 13th and Q. But, so we're heads down getting some data crunched and making sure that we've got reports ready for student athletes when we're able to see them. You know, I think it's, again, interesting times in sports, but NIL rights are actually center stage. So we got to put some things in motion and get some data together. And next will be us sharing all that information with each student athlete next time they're on campus and whenever that would be, and then getting them prepared for the fall.
Awesome stuff, man. It's really cool to hear, Nebraska want to pioneer, and as you know, as a former student athlete, especially in football, having that edge in anything is huge to benefit recruiting and to benefit each individual when they're on campus, and I think this is the next wave in doing that, mixing current age with technology and social media into what we all love, which is college sports. So this is really cool to see, and I can't wait to see in the future how this thing manifests and comes together, and how us, can sit back and watch it kind of take off as well. Blake Lawrence of opendorse, former Husker, with us here on Sports Nightly. Blake, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Congratulations, I guess, are in order for the job well done, and we really look forward to seeing how this thing takes off. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys will see the product. That's the thing, is this, you'll know when it's working. You'll start to see the stories of student athletes on center stage, and so you'll be able to feel the progress that Nebraska makes over the next year. Thankful for the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.